Imagine for a second that you are walking through life wearing this perfectly tailored, incredibly expensive suit of armor.
Right, like a literal knight.
Yeah. And it's shiny, it commands absolute respect, and people immediately open doors for you before you even, have to ask.
You're just totally insulated.
Exactly. You feel completely secure. You don't even really feel the weight of it anymore. But then one day you press this hidden button and the armor just dissolves into thin air.
Oh, wow.
And you are suddenly standing there entirely exposed, shivering in the middle of a crowded street. And guess what? Nobody is opening those doors for you anymore.
It's the ultimate nightmare of exposure, isn't it?
Totally.
Suddenly that boundary between you and the harshness of the world, a boundary you didn't even realize was doing so much heavy lifting, is just entirely gone.
And that feeling, that terrifying, sudden vulnerability, is exactly what we are exploring today. So welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Are you ready to rethink everything you know about status, identity, and, well, the music that scores our lives? Because today, we're looking at Bob Dylan's iconic 1965 track, Like a Rolling Stone.
But we aren't just looking at its musical history or, chart performance. We are pulling from an incredibly dense 10-part analytical manuscript.
A massive source text.
Yeah, and it examines this song not just as a piece of rock history, but really as a sociological blueprint. It's a total deconstruction of privilege and identity.
Okay, let's unpack this, because usually we think of classic rock as pure nostalgia, right?
Right, just comfort music.
Yeah, just a catchy tune you roll the windows down to on a summer drive. But our mission today is to decode exactly why a 6-minute rock song from the 1960s holds the ultimate mirror up to our modern, digitally curated lives. We are going to explore the terrifying reality of what happens when our social armor completely falls away.
The song's brilliance really lies in how it connects a private, deeply personal humiliation to these massive, invisible social structures.
Like, it's never just about one person.
Exactly. Downfall is rarely just an individual failing, right? It's the collapse of an entire system around a person.
We have to start by looking at the core plot of the song. At its heart, it's this narrative of a catastrophic social descent.
The big fall?
Right. The central figure, the you, being sung to, has fallen from a great height. Once upon a time, you dressed so fine. And what is amazing is how incredibly relevant that fall feels to you, the listener, today.
It feels relevant because the addressee hasn't just lost money.
Yeah.
It's much deeper than, a bank account hitting zero.
Right.
She has lost what sociologists call her ecology of mediation.
Ecology of mediation. Wow, that's a heavy but really fascinating phrase. Let's break that down for a second. We're talking about the environment of go-betweens, right?
Exactly. It means the people, the institutions, the daily rituals that literally buffered her from the real world.
The buffer zone.
Think about the bouncer who always lets you in, or the assistant who screens the uncomfortable phone calls, or even just acquaintances who laugh at your bad jokes because, well, you're the one buying the drinks.
Oh, yeah. We all know people like that.
Right. They interpreted the world for her. They entertained her. They protected her. They essentially converted her social power into pure comfort.
So she wasn't necessarily operating on hard cash. She was operating on symbolic capital.
Yes.
Meaning she isn't trading in dollars and cents. She's trading in cool factor, exclusivity, and who she knows. So elite life in this song isn't presented as something authentic or, earned through hard work.
No, it is a staged spectacle.
It's all a show.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what's fascinating here is how perfectly this maps onto modern precarity.
How so?
Think about influencer culture today. Someone can have millions of followers, a completely curated aesthetic, endless brand deals, VIP access to everything.
Giving the dream.
But it can all unravel overnight due to one public scandal, or honestly, even just a sudden shift in how an algorithm works.
Wow, yeah. The algorithm changes and you're nobody.
Exactly. The buffer vanishes instantly.
Yeah.
The symbolic capital just evaporates.
It makes me think about it like this. Okay, imagine her privilege is like wearing a really high-end virtual reality headset.
Okay, I like this.
She's been playing this beautifully simulated game of life, completely insulated. Other people, the handlers, the wealth, the entourage, they absorb all the actual friction and risk. She just gets the frictionless VIP experience. But then suddenly the headset is violently ripped off. And the real world isn't just difficult, it is blinding.
It's too bright.
Exactly. It's fundamentally unreadable to her because she's never actually had had to navigate the physical, messy terrain herself. There's no heads-up display to tell her what to do next.
That is exactly the dynamic at play.
Yeah.
Because the shock isn't just an economic shock of having to, scrounge for your next meal.
Right.
It is an epistemic shock, meaning her entire grip on reality, how she knows what is true and what is false, is completely shattered.
Because she never actually learned how to interpret the world on her own.
Precisely. The text points out that she consumed experiences rather than interpreting them.
She just took them in.
Yeah, she moved through these high-status environments without ever developing the practical or emotional capacities required to survive outside of them.
So when the money's gone, the skills just aren't there.
When that VR headset comes off, as you said, she literally has to learn what the physical world feels like from the bottom up. No direction home.
Which naturally leads to a really terrifying psychological question. When the privilege is gone, when the audience stops clapping, who are you?
Yeah.
What is left of your personality? And this song doesn't just ask this abstractly into the void. It aims it directly at the listener. It is so confrontational.
The use of direct address is totally weaponized here. The entire song is built around the word you.
You.
Exactly. It's not a third-person observation about some girl who fell on hard times. It is performative language aimed right at the subject.
How does it feel? It's right in your face. It's almost aggressive.
Right. And that repeated refrain, how does it feel?
Mm-hmm.
It isn't a sincere check-in on her mental health.
No, definitely not.
It's not a friend putting a hand on her shoulder. It is prosecutorial. The tone itself becomes evidence.
Wow.
The narrator is forcing a reckoning, rhythmically and relentlessly, driving the reality of her situation into her head.
Because her identity has essentially collapsed. The text argues she outsourced her self-understanding to institutions and to the people admiring her.
Mm-hmm.
So when those external validators vanish, she doesn't just become poor, she becomes a complete unknown.
And notice how the narrator doesn't give her a single second to process it on her own terms. It creates a state of public intimacy.
Public intimacy?
Yeah, he is telling her what her new reality is before she can even articulate it herself. There's a massive asymmetry of power happening there.
Like he's writing her story for her.
He claims absolute authority over the interpretation of her downfall. He creates the narrative of her ruin while she is actively living it.
Now, oh wait, I want to push back on this premise for a second.
Sure.
The analysis suggests her identity is destroyed because it was entirely dependent on status. But isn't everyone's identity socially formed to some degree?
That's a fair point.
I mean, we all rely on our jobs, our friends, our communities to tell us who we are and give us a sense of self. Is the song treating dependency too harshly here, as if anyone can truly exist in a vacuum without external validation?
That's a crucial distinction to make.
Yeah.
It's true. All selves are relational.
Right.
We are all social creatures. Nobody exists in a vacuum.
Right.
But the song isn't criticizing social identity in general. It is specifically targeting an identity that has been emptied out by extreme privilege and insulation.
Ah, okay. So it's the difference between having genuine relationships that support your character versus having a purely transactional entourage that literally constitutes your entire existence.
Exactly. If your friends love you and you lose your job, you're still you.
Yeah.
But if your so-called friends are only there because of your VIP access and you lose the access, there's nothing underneath. It's a hollow core. The song is attacking the hollowness.
And because there is nothing underneath, the narrator is just aggressively stripping away this illusion. But, as a listener, it puts you in a really uncomfortable ethical dilemma.
It really does.
Because the narrator is being so brutal, are we cheering for liberation, or are we basically participating in a cruel public execution?
This is one of the main reasons the track has survived this long. It's tonal ambiguity.
Yeah, the music and the lyrics totally clash.
Musically, it feels exhilarating. It's triumphant. It's driving forward. You want to sing along at the top of your lungs. But lyrically, it is narrating a catastrophic, humiliating shaming.
It feels good to listen to, but you feel slightly guilty for tapping your foot to it, like you're dancing to someone's absolute rock bottom.
And it forces us to confront the ethics of exposure. Does the song relish the humiliation? Is the narrator getting a thrill out of it?
Right.
Or is this a damaged form of compassion? Maybe he is the only one willing to name a hard truth that all those sycophants previously surrounding her would never, ever say to her face.
Well, some people might argue it's just theatrical rock energy, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's a rock song. It's supposed to be aggressive and loud and in your face. It's not supposed to be a polite thesis defense.
That's a common angle for sure. But think about it. That tension is completely intentional. The song refuses to give us a clean moral high ground.
Which makes me wonder, does the narrator actually have the moral authority to judge her? Or is he just getting a thrill out of being the one to tear her down?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because honestly, he sounds pretty bitter himself. He sounds like someone who was maybe on the outside looking in, and now he's enjoying the reversal of fortune a little too much.
This raises an important question about who we trust to tell the truth. The song brilliantly refuses to purify the moment.
Meaning what, exactly?
The narrator is given incredible rhetorical force. He has a microphone, he has the beat, but he is not given innocence. And that is what makes the listener highly uncomfortable about their own enjoyment of the spectacle. We are part of the mob watching the execution. But moral clarity can sometimes arrive through compromised, even cruel voices. Truth doesn't always come from a pure, polite messenger.
And the world this cruel messenger places her in is bizarre. It's highly theatrical, almost surreal. It practically begs you to try and guess who he's really singing about.
The imagery is completely unmoored from everyday realism. We have jugglers, clowns, diplomats, chrome horses, Siamese cats.
Napoleon in rags.
Right. And these aren't just random poetic flourishes or, psychedelic nonsense designed to sound cool. No, they represent social condensation. They expose a world where elegance and high status are actually sustained by grotesque tricks and intermediaries.
Let's look at the chrome horse, for example. A chrome horse isn't a real animal. It's a shiny hood ornament, or maybe a motorcycle.
Right.
It implies artificial velocity, fake glamour. It's something shiny but lifeless. It looks powerful, but it's just cold metal.
And the diplomat. In a normal context, a diplomat is there for peace and negotiation.
Sure.
But here, the diplomat with the Siamese cat is there for polished, strategic extraction. It's all manipulation dressed up in high society clothing.
But all this vivid surrealism leads listeners into a massive trap. Because the imagery is so specific, for decades, people have obsessed over finding the real woman this song is supposedly about in the singer's real life.
The infamous Miss Lonely trap.
Right. It's the 1965 equivalent of hunting for Taylor Swift Easter eggs in a music video. Like, who was he dating? Who made him mad? Which socialite snubbed him at a party in Manhattan?
And reducing a massive sociological critique to mere celebrity gossip completely flattens the song.
It ruins it.
It takes this incredible mirror of society and turns it into a tabloid headline. It also highlights the extreme risks of gender coding.
Meaning automatically judging a female-coded figure through a male speaker's supposedly superior insight.
Yes, treating her just as a decipherable object, a mystery to be solved, rather than a lens for deep social meaning.
It's like using a multi-million-dollar telescope to spy into your neighbor's window to see what they're watching on TV instead of pointing it up to look at the universe.
I love that.
You completely miss the massive social structures being critiqued. You're looking at the smallest possible application of the tool.
Exactly. It's like using the wrong tool for the job. And there's an even better way to look at it, a fascinating alternative to the gossip approach. Reflexive projection.
Reflexive projection. Wait, does that mean he's not actually mad at her, but he's looking in a mirror and getting mad at himself? He's projecting his own insecurities onto her.
You hit the nail on the head. It's the idea that the narrator isn't just singing about a fallen socialite. He might be terrified of his own precarious status.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
He might be projecting his own deep anxieties about inauthenticity, social climbing, and the fear of exposure onto this female figure. The hostility is a mirror.
Wow. Okay, so all of this heavy lyrical analysis, the sociology, the surreal imagery, the projection, it would have just been brilliant poetry on a page if it weren't delivered through a musical vehicle that violently shattered the rules of 1960s pop culture.
We absolutely cannot separate the sociology from the sound.
Yeah.
The electric drive of the music is what gave the lyrics their mass cultural reach.
Yeah.
The sheer cumulative propulsion of that sharp snare drum kicking it off, the piano, the electric guitar, and especially that rising organ texture.
It builds and builds. It never lets up. It feels like a wave that is just constantly cresting but never breaking.
It pushes the question, how does it feel, physically, into the listener? The interrogation is literally embodied in the sound.
Yeah.
And we have to remember, the sheer shock of a 6-minute pop single in 1965.
People weren't ready for that.
AM radio stations literally didn't know what to do with it. The commercial form at the time dictated 3 minutes max. It was supposed to be short, sweet, and sellable.
It was a massive historical turning point. It represented a transition from the acoustic folk spokesman, the earnest voice of a generation, playing purely acoustic instruments, singing protest songs, to a volatile electric rock figure with a sneer.
Which caused a massive conflict with his audience. They felt entirely betrayed.
Imagine if a perfectly curated, minimalist wellness influencer on Instagram suddenly went live, threw away the ring light, pulled out an electric guitar, and started screaming punk rock lyrics about how fake the internet is.
That would break the internet.
That is the level of audience betrayal those folk fans felt when they heard that electric snare drum.
That is a brilliant modern parallel. But there's important historical nuance here, too. This wasn't a total out-of-nowhere break from his past.
Right.
He had always had a biting, critical style in his acoustic work. This was an acceleration of that style, now amplified by an electric band and a wider commercial scale.
So it was always there, just quieter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the friction with the audience actually helped canonize the song, because it forced people to argue about what the change meant.
Here's where it gets really interesting. There is a brilliant connection between the sound and the message. The physical recording itself is famously unpolished.
Oh, totally rough.
It's rough, there are mistakes in it, it's a discovery under pressure in the recording studio, and that perfectly mirrors the lyrical theme of the social stripping away.
The musicians were literally figuring it out as they played. The organ player wasn't even supposed to be on the organ. He was a guitar player who just sat down and tried to keep up.
Exactly. The music itself refuses to be curated or polished, just as the narrator is demanding the addressee strip away her curated illusions. The form matches the function perfectly.
That fusion of sound and sociology is exactly why the song didn't just survive 1965. It's why it became an immortal, endlessly debated piece of cultural memory.
It's better than just a song.
It didn't just document a cultural moment. The recording was the event. It broadened the accepted relationship between pop duration, lyrical density, and commercial ambition forever.
That raw, unpolished energy of the 1965 recording didn't just capture a moment in time, it created a template for how we deal with fake personas today. Which brings us to how the song lives and breathes in the present.
The legacy and afterlife of the track are remarkable. It is not a static monument sitting behind glass in a museum that you look at respectfully and walk away from.
No, it's alive.
It's a living work, kept alive by archival releases, alternate studio takes, documentaries, and endless debates over its place in the canon. Cultural centrality is always being renegotiated.
What about modern adaptations?
Well, remediation, like official interactive digital videos released decades later where you can flip through TV channels and everyone is lip-syncing the lyrics, that keeps the interpretive frame incredibly fresh.
So what does this all mean? Why should you, listening to this deep dive right now, care about a song that's over half a century old?
Good question.
Because it remains the ultimate vocabulary for navigating a world where status can evaporate instantly. It's highly relevant to platform-era visibility. It is a massive warning sign flashing in the dark, telling us not to mistake the applause of the crowd, or our follower count, or our job title for our actual character.
When the ecology of mediation falls away, when the handlers and the algorithms are gone, you are left only with yourself.
Just you.
The song forces you to ask if you have an internal map to survive when the external validation is gone. Are you a complete unknown to yourself?
Exactly. But I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over. We talked earlier about reflexive projection.
Right, the projecting of insecurities.
The idea that the narrator might be projecting his own fears onto Miss Lonely. Well, think about where the artist was in 1965.
Very true.
The pressure of being the voice of a generation, the acoustic hero placed on a pedestal. What if the ultimate target of, like, a Rolling Stone wasn't a fallen socialite, nor the listener, but the artist's own past self?
Oh, that's a fascinating leap, turning the weapon entirely inward.
What if the song is an act of public self-destruction? Burning down his acoustic folk hero identity so thoroughly, with such loud electric hostility, that he could never, ever be forced to go back into the curated box the world had built for him.
He had to destroy it to escape it.
He made himself the complete unknown to become free.
Destroying his own ecology of mediation from the inside out, blowing up the pedestal so the armor could never be put back on.
Taking off the suit of armor we talked about at the very beginning of the deep dive, and actively choosing to stand in the street exposed rather than live in a polished, suffocating illusion.
It's terrifying, but maybe it's the only way to actually live.
And think about your own suit of armor, your own ecology of mediation the next time you put on the track. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.